FNAF World isn't at this point an almost, decade-year-old game, but it's still one of my favorite games regardless. What makes FNAF World so entertaining is its fairly straightforward gameplay loop, very vibrant visuals, and very nice sound design. It's just one of those games that makes my autistic peanut brain go brr. Arguably the best example of this is when you get a random encounter after defeating a battle for unlocking a new character. Okay, maybe some parts of the game are a bit gritty, but it holds a place close to my heart. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't look like there will ever be made another game quite like FNAF World, at least not from Scott Cawthon himself, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's. Probably because he got a lot of backlash when the game just released, because it's not quite like the other FNAF games. And so there's only one thing I can do, and that is make my own game. Now, before we go any further, I do need to be clear that I'm not making a new FNAF World. I'm not making a game in the FNAF universe. I'm not making a FNAF fan game. This will be a game based on mostly my own characters. Well, kind of. I'll go into that now. I need to explain a little bit of the lore of how the game has come to be and what I'm going to make. My journey starts on Scratch. If you don't know what Scratch is basically a web browser game engine, kind of. It's a very beginner-friendly program and it works very well for learning programming and just kind of playing around with some basic tools. So yeah, I use Scratch to try and make these projects, but as you can see, I never got very far. So this is where my partner Alfie comes in. Last year, Alfie decided to make a game for my birthday. It was a short, simple, and cute little game, but it was enough to inspire me to do the same for Alfie when their birthday would come up. And thus, Project Lotl-Land was born. At first, I started making Lotl-Land in Scratch, just like the other projects I made prior. I didn't know how to use actual coding engines yet, I'd never used any, and all my experience with coding was in Scratch, so I figured, why not just make the game on Scratch? At first it went well, but unfortunately, as I got further into development, I was starting to see some issues with Scratch. Scratch is a very basic program, and does have very basic tools, and for a project like this that just kind of kept growing as I went, I was starting to see some limitations that I just couldn't get past with Scratch. So it was time to put on my big boy pants and find a real coding engine. And that coding engine ended up being Godot. Godot is great. I already have experience coding with Python, and Godot's code is incredibly similar to Python. The other nice thing about Godot is that it's open source and it has lots of built-in capabilities, so that you don't have to worry about any wacky features because the company must adhere to the stock market. Also, it's really easy to find lots of tutorials online and find forums with information you might need for making your project. So it's incredibly beginner-friendly, and there's lots of tutorials on how to even get started with coding at all, so you basically never get stuck when you're trying to do something. And that gets us to the birthday release of Lotl-Land. This is the furthest I had gotten in developing the game, and this is the first time I shared the project publicly as well. This is specifically the version I shared on Alfie's birthday, and it's basically as far as I managed to get until Alfie's birthday. This version of the game was essentially just FNAF World with some different attacks and 5 characters instead of 4. The other major difference being that you can see how much energy a character has for each attack, and that attacks cost different amounts of energy, as well as a very clunky resistance mechanic that ended up not really working that well at all. It doesn't help that you immediately started out with 5 characters in this game, and there's no proper tutorial, you just get thrown in and hope that you know what attacks do, which made the game feel very chaotic for people who just started playing it, while on the contrary, if you know the game, it feels incredibly slow because you're just waiting for the next attack constantly. Also, I felt like the new mechanics I had introduced just weren't enough to differentiate from FNAF World and make it really my own unique game. So I put Lotl-Land on the back burner for a while, plotting what I could do next to improve the game, while working on some other projects in the meantime. And that brings us to now. Now renamed Project Lotl-Land, I've started working again on this project, completely reworking the ideas I had before, and just one-upping myself at all. I have experience in Godot now, so that does help with building up a project and not making a mess of the code and having to rework ideas and entirely changing the way the game runs. So I have faith that this time, this game will become something really great. And that is exactly why I'm going to be sharing devlogs from now on. It'll probably be a while until I make another devlog from now because, well, I just started working on the game. They will also not be as long as this one because I felt like I needed to do a bit of an introduction. That having said though, let's get into the stuff I have planned for Lotl-Land and explain what the project truly means. I think it's well overdue that I explain the premise of the game. The game is an overworld. This overworld is a 2D open world area in which you can roam around as the head character of the game, Alfei the Axolotl. Alfei the Axolotl is a magical being born from a magical crown that stems from many generations ago. One of Alfei's friends, Mixmina, comes over to show off some cool tech that one of their allies had made. It's a device that allows them to teleport over allies at any time in case they're in danger so that they can help out fight whatever enemy they might be encountering. While Mixmina tries to show off this prototype device, it instead teleports over allies from different universes. And instead of teleporting them right to the device, because it's malfunctioning, it teleports them all around the area. It's your job to rescue them and maybe make allies with them along the way to help you fight against the enemies you might encounter in the area. Now, this is a very rough summary of the premise of the game. In the game itself, once I get to the development of that, will be a lot of explanation about the lore and everything that's going on in the game. But for now, that's all you get. Gonna keep things low-key for now. Alright, the game is about 4 days into development now. Let me just show you what I have so far. The first thing I made is the character selection menu, as you can see right here. That is kind of the core mechanic of the game. Swapping around the characters early on will make it easier to make battles and other things that I want to do in the game. So this is the first thing I decided to make. I also just wanted to do the art for the characters and stuff, and this is a good place to show that off early on and get some core mechanics of the game figured out. It was a pretty good warm-up getting back into Godot after not having done it in a while, so I'm pretty happy with it so far though. So as you can see, each character's icon is displayed. These are the first 10 characters that will be available in the game. Hover over them, they will show you their name. Don't mind the bottom 5, they don't have their models made yet. I will start making those basically after I release this video. Then we've got Alfei, myself, although I will declare this is my in-universe self, which is technically slightly different than YouTube me, online personality me, but that's a whole subject for another day. We've got Lil Mina, we've got Monster Mina, which, yeah, there are other Minas. Some of you might not know this, but there's a whole bunch of logic behind that too. We've got Plurp. You can only see the icons for these. These are all based on our friends, and this will be the 5 characters scattered around that you need to rescue throughout the game. There's still going to be 5 selected characters. You will start out with less characters at the beginning of the game, though, but I haven't gotten that far in development yet. Right now, you can click on a character, you get a little description for them. Remember, this is just early in the build, stuff might still change. There's a huge select button, which starts this sequence. It highlights the character that you've got selected, and then you can click on any of the characters that are highlighted, and you can swap between them. Also, if you click on the character you have selected, it'll just cancel the swap. Same thing if you click the select button twice, and that's how you can rearrange your team. If you click on the character that you want to select, you can click on them, and then, boop, swap over like that. This might change to make it slightly more easy to see which character is which number, because now if you have them shuffled around, it's slightly disorganized, but it's, you know, 4 days into development, this might all still change. And then there's also the quick select button, which basically just does the same thing the select button does, but you immediately click on a character and can swap them instantly, which is really nice. Also, save data is already in the game. I wanted to make sure that I got that working early on so that I can add that as I go, so that I don't forget to add certain things to save data and mess things up later on in the game. It's nice to have that structured. So if I close the game and boot it back up, you'll see that the order of the characters is the same. Well, I know it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But normally it's actually Cryphus as the 5th character, so the save data is different, as well as it saves quick select. This will be a nice quality of life thing when you're playing a game. It saves that you have quick select on, so if you launch the game the next time, you can immediately swap around characters at your will. You can also star characters, although this doesn't get saved right now. This is only something you can do with quick select off, but maybe once there are a lot of characters on screen, you can favorite characters and have a different tab so you can very easily see which characters you have favorited. Maybe that feature will be removed though. I'm not sure how relevant that will be, but it is a thing you can do. Also, just bubbles coming from your mouse cursor, a custom mouse cursor, and bubbles coming from clicking on the icons. I just really like. As you might be able to guess from the amount of bubble-related things in these games, bubbles will be a big thing within this game. I'll be adding a lot more as well as I go, adding character displays for the team you have selected when nothing is in this area because it's just empty right now. I'll probably change the background, so a lot will probably have changed by the next devlog I publish. Obviously, well, each character has their model. I can show these that I have so far. Have a quick look at their animations. These are made in Blockbench. Blockbench is great for low poly modeling. It's super easy to use, and you can animate and export in a variety of ways. These are just GIFs, though, that I'm just displaying in Godot, and it works perfect for what I need, because, well, they're just basic looping animations. I'm really happy with these. They might still change because I have been improving in modeling already, getting better at Blockbench modeling these characters. I hope you like what you see, and I'm very excited to show you more in the future about where this game is headed. I have some pretty fun plans, and there will be a fun story you can play through, and I will also make the battles entertaining. There's some unique systems that I'm planning on implementing for the battles that I will probably get to next time, because I'm very close to getting ready to actually start making the battle system, which will probably be after I get the other 5 models done. So stay tuned for that. You might have noticed the now playing thing that pops up under some segments, and every song that has that will be in the game. Music is one of my biggest passions, and music in games especially. So making the OST for this game be good is one of my biggest priorities, probably out of anything. I'll release them around release time. Maybe some of them I'll release early, probably not though. But there will be plenty more music to come other than the ones you've heard so far in the background of this video. But that about wraps up this first devlog and, well, explanation of what I'm going to be working on. I hope you enjoy what I have planned for the project. For everything I've shared so far, there's still a lot that needs to be unpacked, obviously. I can't share everything right now either. A lot more will come though, especially probably the next devlog when I get to making the battles. So stay tuned for that, and I will hopefully see you next time. And let me know if you're interested in this project. I know it's a little rough for now because there's not a whole lot that has been shared yet. But either way, I'd love to see your support on this project, and I will see you next time. So, goodbye.